Hello there friends, it's Ashley here from the Loopy Lamb and theloopylamb.com, and thank you so much for stopping by the channel today. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make my easy faux knit twist ear warmers. Now, whether you call it an ear warmer or a headband, it doesn't matter. They all have the same function. It's going to keep your ears nice and cozy in the winter. Now, this is a beginner-friendly pattern, and it is available in 8 different sizes, and we're going to cover all 8 sizes in the video tutorial today. And before we jump in, let's cover all of the materials that you're going to need in order to crochet your ear warmer. So this works up super quickly. I'm able to make an adult size medium in about 30 minutes. Now, how quickly you're able to crochet depends on your skill level and how quickly you personally crochet, but I can create one of these in about 30 minutes, sometimes a little less. Now, for your yarn, we're going to be using a super bulky weight yarn. This is the Lion brand Woolies Thick and Quick, and this color I'm using today is called Succulent, and my samples here are also done in the Thick and Quick. This is the color Petrol Blue, and this one is called Stormfront. You're also going to need a 10mm or P crochet hook, a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, and these are optional, but I do find having a couple of stitch markers on hand quite handy, especially if you are just starting out, and we'll cover where we will use those in the actual pattern tutorial here. Now, in order for this to fit you, you're going to need to match gauge. The gauge for this pattern is 7 stitches by 8 rows equals 4 inches. Now, I do have a written out gauge swatch for you on the blog with the free version of this pattern, which I've linked in the description box for you below. And again, gauge is vital to the project to ensure that it fits you as expected. Now, as for the sizes, we've got sizes baby 3 to 6 months, 6 to 12 months, toddler, child teen, adult small, adult medium, and adult large. So when we start our pattern, there's going to be a moment where I ask you to pause the video in order to find how many chains you're going to need to start with based on your size. So just be prepared for that. All right. And so let me clear off my workspace here and we'll hop on into making the easy faux knit twist crochet ear warmer. All right, to start our ear warmer, we need to create a slip knot. Now we're going to take the tail end of our yarn and lay it across our palm, and then we're going to pin it down with our thumb. Now I will stop here and just mention that this is my preferred way of doing a slip knot. There are many other ways that you can create a slip knot, and if you'd like to explore some of them because you're struggling with this version or you just prefer another version, you can check out this video tutorial here where I show you a few other ways to do a slip knot. All right, so now I'm going to grab the working end of our yarn, which is the end attached to our ball, and I'm going to wrap the yarn around behind my 2 fingers here, bring it around to the front, and cross it over itself to create an X. Okay, do you see that X there? Now, while I maintain tension here on the working end of the yarn, I'm going to flip my hand over, bringing the yarn with me, and then I'm going to pin the yarn down between my ring finger and my pinky finger. Now, this next part, you can use your crochet hook or you can use your fingers to do it. I prefer my hook. And we're going to take our hook or finger and insert it under the first strand, over the second, and then I'm going to pull that second strand out and under the first. Now, while I'm pulling with my hook, I can slip my fingers out and I'm going to grab hold of both ends of the yarn, the tail and the working end, and then pull down on the tails and up on the hook, and that tightens my slip knot. Now it's too loose for me to work on it right now, so what I'm going to do is grab the working end of the yarn and give that a little tug so it is up close to the hook. We don't want it to be too tight that it doesn't move, so if it moves freely like this, you're good to go. So now we're ready to start our chain for our pattern, and as I mentioned in the introduction here, there's going to be a moment here where I'm going to ask you to pause, so please prepare for that. I'm going to be creating the adult medium size, so I'm going to create a chain of 38. If you want to create a different size, pause your video now and an image is going to pop up that shows you how many chains you're going to create and then how many stitches you'll have at the end of row 1. All right, so now that we know how many chains we need, we're going to create our chains. To do that, I'm going to yarn over and pull that loop through the loop on my hook. That's 1 chain. Then I'm going to yarn over again and pull that through the loop on my hook. That's 2 chains. We're going to continue to yarn over and pull through the loop until we have the number of chains that we need. Again, I'm doing the adult medium size, so I need to create 38 chains. So if you'd like to pause your video and create the number of chains you need, I'll meet you back here in just a moment. All right, so I'm back and I have my finished chain. If you're not familiar with counting your chains, I'll do that quickly with you here. So I find it personally best to count our chains starting from our slip knot, and you want your chain to be facing you so you see these little V's. Okay, if your chain is this way, it's going to be a little trickier for you to count the chains. So turn it over, and so you see these V's, and starting from the slip knot here, you're just going to count each chain from the slip knot over to your crochet hook. The yarn on your crochet hook does not count as a chain, right? So now we're ready to start row 1 of our pattern. For row 1, we're just going to work a half double crochet into this second chain from the hook. So again, the yarn on our hook never counts. We're going to go 1 and 2, and I'm just going to put my finger right next to that chain so I know where I'm going to work my stitch. Then I'm going to yarn over and insert my hook into the middle of that V, yarn over and pull up a loop. There should be 3 loops on your hook. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on my hook. That's my first completed stitch. And then the instructions say we're going to work a half double crochet stitch into every chain that we created. Okay, so we're going to yarn over and insert our hook into the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. Should be 3 loops on your hook. Then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. That's your next stitch completed. We'll do that again together one more time. Yarn over into the very next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop. 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to continue working that half double crochet stitch into each remaining chain. If you'd like to pause your video, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we're moving into row 2. All right, so I just finished my last stitch of row 1 and I'm ready to move into row 2. To start row 2, we're going to yarn over hook and pull that through the loop on our hook to create a chain 1. Then we're going to turn our work. Now for this next row, we want to take a look at our stitches, and half double crochets can be a little tricky when you need to work into a certain loop. So let's take a look at our stitches. So right here, some people might think that these strands here are our stitch or the top of our stitch. And unfortunately, that's not the case. This is what's called the third loop. So what we want to do is turn our work so we see the V's along the top of the work. This is the front loop closest to me, and this is the back loop furthest from me. And what we're going to be doing for this row is we're going to be working into that back loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a hook through the top of the stitch and under that back loop only. Then we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. You should have 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to pull that loop through the loop on our hook. And that creates a slip stitch. Now the instructions for this row are to work a back loop only slip stitch into every stitch. Now we've already done that once and we'll do it again together, but I want to just note that when you're creating your stitches for this row, we want to ensure that we're not doing our slip stitches tightly. This is a common issue, especially if you're just starting out, because you want to do things quickly, and I'll just do an example here. You do this stitch and then you pull really tight and your stitches become tight, and then it will actually cause your fabric to cinch together or bunch up. So we don't want to do that. We want to just keep a nice loose tension. Okay, so we'll do the next stitch. We're going to insert our hook through the top of the stitch under the back loop only, yarn over and pull up a loop, 2 loops on our hook. Then we're going to pull that first loop through the loop on our hook to do our back loop only slip stitch. So we're going to insert under the back loop only of the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, then pull that loop through the loop on our hook. And we're just going to continue to work in that manner all the way across, under the back loop of the next stitch and slip stitch. Now before I let you go, if you are struggling to find what your first and last stitches are in this project, it's common with half double crochets, and when you're doing slip stitches, it is also common for the first stitch to kind of look like it's wanting to curve down towards the edge. So putting a stitch marker in the first and your last stitch of the row is a handy way to keep track of those so you don't pick up or lose stitches. All right, so if you'd like to pause your video now and continue to work your back loop only slip stitch into every stitch across, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we're moving into row 3. All right, so I just finished my last stitch of row 2 and we're moving into row 3. To do that, we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop to chain 1, and then we're going to turn our work. Now in this point, again, this is where it gets a little tricky, only in that these stitches are starting to create that V-like knit look stitch that we have in this design, but it can be a little deceiving because you might think that these are the stitches you're working into. But again, we want to turn our work so we see the top of our stitches, and then this is where our front loop is and our back loop. All right, so for row 3, it's very similar to what we did in row 1 in that it's all half double crochets. However, we're going to be working in the back loop only like we did in our previous row here. So again, front loop, back loop, we're going to yarn over and insert our hook under the back loop only, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. All right, let's do that again. Yarn over and insert into the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through all 3. Okay, we'll do that one more time together. Yarn over into the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. Now, if you take a look at your piece now, you can really start to see the definition of those knit-like stitches along the front of our fabric. This is the right side of our fabric, and this is the wrong side of our fabric. So odd numbered rows are the right side and even numbered rows are the wrong side. So if you'd like to pause your video and work 1 half double crochet stitch in the back loop only of each stitch across, I'll meet you back here in just a moment to show you how we're moving into row 4. So I just finished my last stitch of row 3. And what we're going to do is moving into row 4, we're going to yarn over and pull up a loop to chain 1 and turn our work. Now, row 4 is a repeat of row 2. We're going to be doing those back loop only slip stitches again. So under the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, then pull that through the loop on our hook. Okay, and so we're working that back loop only single crochet into each stitch across. So this is where we're going to start to see some differences in our instructions per size. We're going to have another picture pop up to give you those instructions in a written form, okay? So for the 2 smallest baby sizes, baby 0 to 3 months and 3 to 6 months, you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 for rows 4 and 5. Okay, so that means you're going to do 1 slip stitch row followed by 1 half double crochet row. Then for sizes baby 6 to 12 months through toddler, you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 for rows 4 through 7. Okay, so that means you're doing 2 repeats of the slip stitch row followed by a half double crochet row. For sizes child and teen through all the adult sizes, you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 for rows 4 through 9. All right, so you're going to do your repeats of rows 2 and 3. And when you get to the end of your rows for your size, meet me back here and I'll show you how we're going to finish off and close our ear warmer. All right, so I'm back. I've got this ear warmer here that I finished. This is the baby size that I've also been working on. And when you're done all of your row repeats, you're just going to cut your yarn and leave a long tail, probably about 8 to 10 inches is good enough. If you want to have a little extra just to be on the safe side, that's fine, but you really don't want to go too much shorter than that for this next step. So before we actually do the assembly, I want to reiterate what's the right side and the wrong side of the fabric because it does play a role in the assembly. So the side of the fabric you see here where we've got these V-look stitches along the top of our fabric, that is the right side. And when we turn it over, this is what the wrong side looks like. We want the wrong side to be facing out and the right side to be facing up for this next step of the assembly. So we're going to grab the 2 short ends of our piece and we're going to, this is always a little tricky to show on camera, you're going to take your 2 short ends and fold them in half, like so. Right? Then we're going to interlock the 2 pieces together. Right? If you've got 2 yarn tails here, the one from your beginning, just flop it over and we'll deal with that later. Doesn't matter really which way you do it, like this one on the bottom or whatever, just as long as they are interlocked like so. Right? Then what I should have done is preemptively thread my yarn tail onto a tapestry needle. I'll do that quickly. And so with our ends interlocked like this, we're going to take our yarn tail and we're going to whip stitch the 2 ends together. And this is what creates our twist. So I've got my yarn tail here and I'm going to come onto the opposite side of the fabric here. And I want to make sure that I'm catching all 4 layers of the fabric when I'm working through this. If you miss a piece of the fabric here, you'll have a gap in your twist and the twist just won't work out as nicely. So we do want to make sure that they are all worked through when you're going through. So now that I've gone through from one side to the other, I'm going to come back to the other opposite side here. And again, we're going to work through all 4 layers of the piece. And then pull that through. And we're just going to keep going until we've gotten to the other side. All right, so now that I've gotten to the other side, I'm just going to flip it over so that way you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to flip it to the right side facing out. And then you've got that beautiful twist. Isn't this little one so cute? Oh my gosh, the baby ones, they just kill me every time. All right, so we're going to turn it back so the wrong side's facing out because we want to finish our seam. So at this point, I know a lot of makers like to add a knot in their work at this point, which I totally get. That's fine because there's a lot of pressure on that knot when you put it on. It's really going to pull. So I am all for adding a knot in your piece as long as it's small, because again, it's going to be sitting on your forehead and any knots that are in that could get uncomfortable. So I'm going to just do a little tiny knot here. Now the kind of knot I'm doing here, it's not the most secure, but for me, it's flat enough. It's not going to be too obtrusive when I'm wearing it. So whatever kind of knot you feel the most comfortable with there is going to work. Okay. So now that I've got that in, I'm just going to quickly weave in my ends. All right. Now I will weave in the rest of the ends off camera because no one, I'm sure, wants to watch me do that. However, let's flip this over one more time so we can see now that we've got the seam all in place. There is our beautiful headband or ear warmer, whatever it is that you want to call it. Now, the number of lines that you have with your V stitches here will vary depending on your size. The smaller sizes will have 2, like the baby sizes will have 2, some of them will have 3, and then the larger sizes will have 4. So if you don't have this many because you're making a bigger size, that's totally normal. All right, so that's it for today. I hope that you found this tutorial helpful. If you did, please hit that like button and please consider subscribing to the channel. It helps the channel grow and helps me to continue to offer free crochet patterns and tutorials like this one. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. If you enjoy free crochet patterns, please check out my blog, theloopylamb.com, where I've got over 200 free crochet patterns, many of which have step-by-step video tutorials just like this one. Thanks so much for watching, friends. Happy hooking, and I'll see you next time.